Hello, everybody. I'm Jay Lynn, and I just survived 100 days in hardcore mode on Minecraft Bedrock. And for my first time playing hardcore mode, I'm really having fun with this world, and I'm really happy with how it's all come together so far. And I thought I'd follow the trend and put it all together into a nice movie for you for the first 100 days. So, gonna cut out a few intros and outros, and just hope you enjoy. Here we are once again at episode 1 of a brand new hardcore world on Minecraft Bedrock. And I know that's going to catch some of you by surprise after watching my last episode. And no, I didn't die. I had made a copy of the world to get a screenshot for the thumbnail of that episode, and when dealing with the files afterwards, I accidentally deleted the wrong world. So very unfortunate. I was really liking the start I had going in my little village, and I really liked the area, but I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm just going to jump back in and give it another go here. And I will say I'm going into it with a different perspective this time, because I'm realizing it's a lot more doable than I might have thought. Even though I've been known to die in my Let's Play world, I really realized the power of sleeping at sunset and just avoiding confrontation. You can definitely get through some days. So once again, my goal is just to focus on surviving 100 days and playing pretty safe, and like I said, avoiding confrontation. And then at that point, I'll think of taking some risks and fighting the dragon and doing all that kind of stuff. But yeah, here we are once again doing the day 1 grind. I did restart a couple times just because I had horrible spawns, and I just want to have something interesting to explore kind of from the get-go. But other than that, I am going in blind again. I did enjoy doing that. After so many years of kind of searching out a seed beforehand, it is fun going in blind every now and then. And yeah, on our first little dig down getting our stone, we found some iron, which is very nice early on day 1. And gonna speed through the day 1 grind a certain amount just because I just did this a couple videos ago, but I do gotta kind of take you on the exploration. I feel like it's an important part of the series. So yeah, just been made our way up to High Point here, looking at things, and we are in a spruce forest. And I know I said I didn't really want to build in a spruce forest since I had been doing that recently in my Let's Play world, but this area caught my attention down here. I like this ocean front, knowing that these mountains would be a cool backdrop, so I was going to head down there, but first I wanted to get to the highest point of them all and see the other side. And yeah, definitely some decent generation around here. Nothing of note over there. But this area down here, like I said, just kind of called my attention, so I thought I'd work my way down and check it out. And yeah, even this is a cool little river heading in with the hole in the mountain there. Found my first couple sheep here. Need to get one more for that bed for the first night. But yeah, came out to this stony shore, and it kind of caught my attention early, and I was thinking I might have found where I'm going to build my base on day 1, which really nice. But I had to stay on task. I kept getting any food and wool when I could. Gotta have that bed for night 1. It's always a relief when you get it made. And yeah, it was just about getting nighttime, so I thought I'd just start getting some food cooking and getting a little bit organized here. But I will say, overall, I think this is a really cool area, and I did make my decision right there. This is where I'm going to live, which I found on the first day, which is really nice. Hopefully it'll speed things up a little bit for me here, but went ahead and grabbed the couple mutton chops that were ready because I needed some food. I'm realizing I didn't have anything to eat on day 1, which is crazy. But yeah, I just think this area is really cool here, and my head was rolling with ideas right away. And another thing that's going to kind of speed things up is that it's pretty ready-made to be built on. Won't have to do as much terraforming as usual, so I'm real excited about this area. It's also similar to my other area, being on the ocean with the mountains behind, but it's just on a bigger scale, my area from my last hardcore world, I should say. So I'm going to take a lot of the concepts and the ideas I had going over there and bring it over here. But yeah, got some interesting land around us here. Got a view from out here, and you can see what I'm thinking. Just some buildings along the stony shore there, and the mountains just make a really cool backdrop on both sides, and I was pretty excited right away for this world, I'll be honest. So I got over the disaster of the last world pretty quickly and easily. But I still needed to do the early game grind before I could even think about building, so we gathered some protein, explored the area, saw some icebergs over here, which I don't care to go explore, but it's cool knowing we have the ice nearby. But we were mainly looking for a village, and we did find this guy here. I do feel like they're harder to find nowadays than they were when I created my Let's Play world, for example, but this is definitely going to do the trick here, so just get raiding the area a bit. I will say it's a shame to have value in doing this to the poor cats early on now to get that string for your first couple bundles. A lot of people are going to be doing that wouldn't have done it before. Yeah, not too much to be found in the chests or anything, but we did find a saddle, and I'd seen this horse over here, so thought I'd come try to tame him, and gave it a good effort. But he was just not wanting me to tame him. It was getting too close to nighttime, and he seemed like a slow horse anyway, so we're giving up on that guy and going to sleep for the second time. I woke up this day figuring just another day of gathering things up. I'm still taking any wool and meat that I can get, but this day I wanted to focus on getting some trees, getting some wood stocked up. So saw this area over here and just thought I'd head over and spend most of the day just chopping trees. Went ahead and cooked up the little bit of iron I had and made an axe just to be a little bit more efficient with the day, and also a chest plate just to feel a little bit safer. I will be needing to get some more iron. We'll be doing that here pretty quickly, but definitely a productive day. Will feel good to have a nice little start on some oak and birch, but that will be an ongoing process of gathering all of that. Yeah, worked my way back towards the village here, and I saw this horse, thought I'd try to tame him up, and he tamed up pretty easily. Put the saddle on him and was thinking of riding him all the way back, even though he definitely wasn't the fastest horse. And when I got to the water up here, I decided, well, I could walk all the way around with the horse, or I could just take the saddle back and take the boat on over. I'll find a different horse. I feel bad leaving him, but I didn't feel like riding all the way around. And yeah, once again, coming into this view, I'm just really looking forward to building this place up. And after spending a little time getting organized here, thought I'd get chopping a few trees down here, clearing out an area for my crop field. And that is one thing about building in the mega spruce forest, is you gotta clear out the podzol because you can't till that soil. So that's a little extra work, but nothing too bad. And I end up spending most of this day just working on the crop field. I do like to just put a little work into my original crop farms. I think it doesn't take much just to look a lot cooler than your typical little box of crops. So I just try to round things off a little bit, have it kind of terrace down the hill, and get everything all planted. And in the end, I think we got a pretty decent looking area here with room to grow with pumpkins and melons and beetroot when I find it. Went ahead and got some food cooking, gathering the little bit of coal I had around me, and while that was cooking and we were waiting for nighttime, I thought I'd come over here and just check out this little hole that I saw on the way down here to see what we're working with. And I see that it goes all the way through here, and it's definitely an area I want to come check out, but I'm just not quite prepared at this time, so we'll have to come back and do that later. And then just finish the night clearing a few trees for the area that will eventually be my animal farm, which I hope to not procrastinate as long as I did in my last world on. But this day I wanted to head to the east a little bit and try to get to the top of this hill and kind of see what we're working with on the other side, and also on a mission to get some iron. So that I want to get up nice and high and just gather some iron. And along the way I saw we had this little cave of lush cave, which I thought I might as well light up and gather any of the exposed iron on, which there was actually a couple decent little iron veins. Made our way to the top of the hill, and looking on the other side, it's a lot more of the same. Definitely a big mega spruce forest we got going here. But I just spent some time finding any clear stone I could find and gathering iron and coal best I could. I did end up finding another village up here, which was a pretty nice find, and I always enjoy these spruce villages. I feel like their buildings are just always more unique. And I thought this was kind of a cool area, and had this big giant cave over here. Obviously not something I want to mess with right now, but it's cool to know it's there. And once again, just taking any exposed iron, and this village had some really nice chests actually. Lots of iron and some armor and good amount of food and some obsidian. So that's one of the better villages I've found recently. And at this point, I felt like it was a successful little adventure, so I started making my way back to the base, going kind of a roundabout way so I'd see some new things. And I ended up pretty much being at spawn actually, but I didn't really explore it very well when I was over here. I did find this nether portal here, which had a silk touch axe, which is kind of a nice early find. I wish it was a pickaxe, but it's nice to have silk touch of anything just in case you need it. Made my way back through the rainstorm, spent a little time getting organized. Again, the bundles are awesome for these early adventures here. And got my iron all smelted up. Ended up completing my set of armor, so I feel a lot safer at this point. I started this day by getting some pumpkins planted just so they're growing. But I need to do my early mining trip. Another thing I like to do before I even build, mainly just because I get materials as I do it. And I'm thinking this little spot right here would make a good spot for a mine. Kind of caught my eye earlier. But before we do that, I wanted to explore this cave a little bit now that I got iron armor on, feel a little safer. So I just wanted to light things up, and I did end up attracting a crowd. But sometimes you gotta just work smarter, not harder. Might as well take advantage of it being daytime. I didn't chicken out every time though. I ended up fighting a few mobs, including a couple creepers as we got this cave lit up, and it is cool to know we got the big lush cave down there, and this is a cool little cave setup here with the exposed to the outside. I hope to get back there sometime if I can live long enough. And I didn't like seeing this Enderman when I came out of there. That is one thing I definitely don't want to let catch me slipping, because Enderman will get you. Got slowly but surely working my way down to negative 54, and I did find a trial chamber along the way, which is real nice to have right nearby. Obviously not something I want to mess with right now, but when I'm better geared up in the future, it'll be nice having access to that copper. I made my way all the way down to negative 54, got a chest to get organized, and realized I had come down here with pretty much no wood, so I needed to make a trip back up to the top and get some of that. And yeah, on the way back, you can see the mine we're getting set up. Kind of a cool location. But I was just opening up some room above my head on the way down, and at the very bottom, I realized that we're going to be strip mining right below an ancient city, which is pretty crazy. That means that we have a trial chambers and an ancient city essentially right next to where I'm going to be building. That's a pretty lucky find there, actually, and will come into play here in just a little bit. But I wanted to start by just doing some strip mining. I know I did a whole bunch of this not too long ago, so I'm not really going to take you along with me. Once again, it doesn't seem to be the way to go. I found these diamonds early on, but it was only a vein of 3, which is kind of annoying, even though it's nice to find your first diamonds. But kept on going and found another vein, and it was only a vein of 2, which I thought the point of strip mining was that you were supposed to find bigger veins of diamonds, but I feel like the last few times I've done it, it just doesn't work out like that. But definitely not all bad, though, because the main reason I'm doing it this way is to build up some materials, and definitely getting some deep slate and some tuff along the way down here, so it's definitely not all bad. I did put in some work. I ended up running into this little lava pool here, and ended up clearing the area out a little bit and making it safe for me. And in the process, I was reminded that right above my head is the ancient city here, and I just couldn't help myself. I just wanted to poke my head up and see where I was at. And yeah, it's an ancient city with a lush cave right above it, so that's got to be different. Having the lit up ceiling in the ancient cities, I feel like that's got to be rare. But then I got to be thinking, I got this strip mine going right underneath the area here, so if I could just look around and see some areas that might have some easy chests, I could just poke my head up right at the correct area and try to make things easy on myself. So I know it's risky, and early on, I would probably not have done this if I had already started building, but I figure I've only been in here 10 days. Thought I'd give it a try, so just like I thought, it worked out. I found an area that looked like it'd have a chest, poked my head out, and found a nice little chest here. And in the process of doing that, I realized that it was an extremely quiet, ancient city. And the more I explored, I couldn't find a shrieker anywhere. I heard some of the sensors here and there, and there was a few mobs that would come off from the side, but for the most part, it was just a really quiet, ancient city. And the more I explored, there's just no shriekers, so I've got a glitched out ancient city. There still is the danger of the mobs come from the sides, and this was actually a close call here, probably the closest call I've had to this point. But really, if there's no shriekers, an ancient city's a pretty safe place to be, because mobs don't spawn in the ancient city itself, they just come off from the side. So I weighed the risks. Like I said, if I had been much further and had made much progress, I might not have even been doing this, but I figured if I was to die here, I probably would have just restarted on the same seed this early on. And I just figured it was a risk worth taking, kind of fun. Exploring an ancient city on episode 1. Might as well take advantage of the glitch while it's there. Although I will say, as I explored, it seemed like some of the buildings were glitched out as well to places where there would have usually been a chest. The building might not have loaded in completely correctly, so it was glitched out in a few ways actually, but it's still fun to explore. And I was probably getting overconfident, just traveling around here, a few sensors there, and then I saw my first shrieker. And it was just too far away from the sensors to be set off, but that did tell me that they were here, so I started being a little more careful as I explored this end of things, just to make sure I didn't run into the cave that started working. And of course it did. And that really startled me there, and I was freaking out for a second and running around, and could have been bad, since I was honestly kind of lost on where my entrance was when the dark came. But then I remembered it takes 3 times for the warden to actually come out, so I was kind of freaking out for nothing, other than we do need to be a little more careful now. We are realizing that there are shriekers in certain places. So I tried to stick to the areas that I had already kind of explored, and was really hoping for something in this chest by the big portal, but nothing but the golden apple here. And I was taking a bunch of candles. I figured those would be kind of fun to have early on. And we did find a few more chests. Nothing too fancy in any of them. A couple diamond leggings and diamond horse armors are nice finds. But for the most part, it wasn't the most profitable chest searching around down here. Name tag early on, kind of nice. But yeah, that's my glitched out deep dark here. And like I said, kind of funny to be exploring this, because I've barely explored an ancient city in my Let's Play world, which I'm on day 2600 plus on at this point. So pretty special to be able to do on episode 1. And we emerged from the mine at sunrise here, which is my favorite time of day in Minecraft actually, and something I really miss about hardcore mode is being able to enjoy the nights and the sunrises, but it's just not worth it. So got another chest made and spent a little time getting organized here. And finally I am ready to build, and I feel pretty good getting started on the base on day 14. We're kind of ahead of the game here. And yeah, my plan for the area is to have a main street concept here. Have the main street going up and down this direction here with buildings on both sides. And just like in my last world, I'm just going to have the buildings all connected together and the villagers being able to roam freely between them. And today we're just going to get started on my general little area here. This will be my little base of operations, and I'm going to start by just building the face out and kind of figure out the scale I want to go with. I am going with a bit of a bigger scale here, definitely bigger than the scale I was going with in my last world. Yeah, I'm just going to let you enjoy the concept of my building getting made here. I will mention I'm going for a Bavarian themed here, so we'll just slowly but surely build a little Bavarian oceanfront village. I will mention I'm going with, again, more basic roofs than I tend to build in my Let's Play world, for example, and just to change things up. I figure if I always do the same kind of medieval roofs, it'll start to run stale, so just doing some nice simple roofs every now and then will still look good, and I think it actually looks real nice, and I'm really liking the scale, and seeing this building up is just definitely got me excited to expand on the area. I just kept at work, building the face out. And the concept I had in my head seems to be coming together pretty nicely here. Obviously lots of work to do, but just getting the face figured out and kind of a concept, and we'll just have different buildings with different textures but kind of the same style. I like having the stone on the bottom and the wood on top separate the floors. That's something we'll definitely be expanding on. And yeah, like I said, definitely a much bigger scale than I was building on in my last world. You can imagine this is going to come back about probably this far or so. It's going to be a lot of resources, and we'll have the road coming right through here and buildings on all sides, and I think you can kind of start to see what I'm envisioning here. But I do want to do a bunch of building, but I need to do some resource gathering first. I'm already able to tell that I'm going to be running out of resources really quick. So chop some spruce down in the area that once again is going to be where I put my animals here at some point. Going to need to clear those trees anyway, and spruce adds up pretty quick. Then I made the trip across the ocean here to my other tree chopping area and just gathered a whole bunch of oak and birch. I will say I end up having to come out here a couple more times throughout this episode, but I won't show you every time just for the sake of continuity. But we spent pretty much that whole day out there, and I'm feeling like we've got a pretty good stock on things at this point. I was using my diamonds to make some tools because I was low on iron, so I did make a diamond axe, and I made a diamond pickaxe here to come down and mine a bunch of granite, which is one of my favorite early game blocks that I feel like people sleep on a lot of times. I think using granite in your builds looks really good. But we got a good amount of it here. While I was down here, I figured I'd get some diorite, so I dug a decent sized hole of that. Made my way up and emerged at nighttime, and I figured I would take the risk at this time to spend this night lighting up the area a bit. And it's always good to do at night so you can see the dark exposed places. So I just got running in circles, and once again I was attracting a crowd, which wasn't too big a deal until I got shot by the skeleton here, and that kind of kicked me in the butt a little bit. But then I heard a baby zombie behind me, and that is not something I want to mess with at all. So I hopped down on my boat and just went out more than 100 blocks, and knowing all those mobs would despawn once again. Sometimes you gotta work smarter, not harder. And every time I get this view out here, it just gets me more and more excited for building up the area here. So I finished the morning by just making sure my area is pretty well lit, and at this point I've got a pretty decent perimeter set so that if I stay up too late, they shouldn't be spawning at least right next to my general work area here. So after a little bit of organizing here, I'm ready to do some building. So take a good look now, because I'm ready to put my head down and really make some progress. Starting with finishing my first building here. And it was at this point that I really started to realize how big a scale I was building on. Definitely bigger than I usually do, but I'm happy to be stepping out of my comfort zone a little bit here, and I'm really happy with the end result in the end, but it's a little more work than I planned on. And we are using quite a few resources here, especially wood. When you're using that stripped wood for the texturing there, you end up going through things really fast. But it's well worth it. I think it looks a lot better than just having the wall of planks. But yeah, I just kept kind of going through like my assembly line, pretty much bringing the same concept to this side as the ocean side. And I think it's looking really cool here, especially once we get the roof in and get to that halfway finish point at least, getting the exterior done. I won't be doing the interior today. Definitely end up doing a lot more work on this than I was planning on, but well worth it. I'm really liking the concept we got going on here. Like I said, going for a Bavarian theme, and I think it's coming out. And I wanted to just add one more building to the side so you can kind of see my concept of just connecting the buildings together. So for this one, we're going for a little skinnier, taller style here, and just change up the blocks a little bit, but also build them very similarly so they look like they go together nicely, and I think they end up going together nicely. It's definitely a good amount of work though. You can really see the days ticking by if you're keeping an eye on it up there. And I did cut out a couple times of going and chopping a few more trees and getting some more resources. But for the most part, I was just in a really good build mode and making progress at a pretty good rate. I did decide to kind of lay out at least the idea for some paths, just again so you can kind of get an idea for the scale. So the road in front, going with a pretty wide road with a nice little sidewalk, and then a little boardwalk on the back side just so it looks cooler from the water. And I did do a little bit of terraforming, bring it all the way down to the ocean. We can definitely make it look better. And in the end, going around with some greenery. I know I'm cutting things pretty fast here, but I feel like a lot of this concept I just went over in a couple videos ago, so I don't want it to be too repetitive, but I think this came out really cool. I am super excited for this area now, and really got over my mistake of deleting my first world. I got over that pretty quick, because I feel like this is just pretty much going with the same ideas that I got going in there on a bigger scale, and I think it's going to be really cool. You can just imagine this main street with the nice big buildings on both sides and the mountain in the backdrop, and just the different styles of buildings are going to be fun to try to come up with over time. And yeah, take a trip out to the ocean so we can see it from the ocean side. I think it looks really cool from out here as well. I'm really glad that I decided to step my scale up a little bit, and I think as we expand on this, it's just going to end up being such a cool area, and just a level up in my building, I would say. Mainly just going up in the scale, and if I can survive long enough to expand this along this cliffside here, it's going to be a really cool base. So yeah, I really do appreciate you all coming along once again, especially those that made it to this point. And my plan is I want to try to get to 100 days, and that's kind of my focus right now. And then, like I said in the last couple videos, don't worry, my Let's Play world isn't going anywhere. I've got big plans for that. And here we are back in my hardcore world here, and I'm just going to pick right back up where we left off on episode 1. I'm really liking the concept we got going here with this little Bavarian main street idea, and today I want to get a couple buildings added in here, and I also want to get started on the process of getting some villagers brought over and get that process going. But I'm just going to jump right in doing some work here, starting by putting some work in on this road. I put this in at the end of last episode, but I didn't really plan it out very well. I was just trying to get it down to kind of show my idea, but I end up putting a good amount of little work in here getting this figured out. And I wanted it to extend up this way a little bit, so I chopped a few trees to make some room, and it ends up being quite the project here, actually, using lots of my deep slate that I built up in my last episode. And I didn't want to have a completely right angle here, so I kind of got this big angle going on, and it does kind of change my view. I was planning on just having buildings all the way around, but now I'm thinking I'm going to kind of leave this angle over here open, and it'll be cool to have at the end of the street so you can see the sunset when it happens. And just to make things a little less claustrophobic when we get all the buildings put in here. But I'm still sleeping through my nights, trying to stay as safe as possible. Well, I did keep my head down at work, and I was quickly realizing that I was going to need a bunch more resources. So I made a trip down to the mines and just did a little strip mining, mainly to get some deep slate. I did find a couple diamonds along the way. Actually a decent vein here. I think I ended up with 8 on this trip. So slowly but surely I'm building my diamonds up for my armor. Got a bunch of tuff while I was down there, as well as some cobblestone, just clearing out my mine area and the stairway down. And then I got back to road building. I like the idea of having the street go off in 2 different directions rather than have it just be one long straight line, just to break things up. And I'll need to do some adjusting over here, but if I was to fill up this whole street, both sides, I would consider that a very successful hardcore world. And today we're going to get started on filling up the streets a little bit. I'm just laying out kind of the general area where I want to put these buildings here. Give you an idea of what I plan on. One on the left's going to be the farm building, and this is going to be for my armors and smiths and all that. And then over here, I'm actually going to turn this in for my masons, so this will be where my stone masons are. And I'm planning on this being my general base of operations here, and obviously I didn't get very far in getting that set up, but I'm actually going to use this as a staging area, kind of a temporary villager hall, just to get some villagers bred up. And put a little work in, just getting the floor filled in, and put my top floor in just while I'm here, might as well. And I am excited to turn this into my little base, but I'm going at things a little different order than I do in my Let's Play world. I'm not quite as rushing the interiors and all that. Probably be doing a lot of that next episode, I'm thinking, but we definitely have a nice setup up here to get something cool built eventually. But I was wanting to get to work on bringing some villagers over, and I was just about out of iron, which I was going to need some iron because I need to make some rails to be able to do some transporting. So did some digging around at level 16, hoping to find some iron, figuring I probably wouldn't find much, but also get some cobblestone along the way. But I kept opening up into these water caves, which was annoying, but I did find some exposed iron. I did end up just mining a long straight line as well, just to get some cobblestone while I was down here, and didn't find much iron that way. 28 in that whole trip is not very much, but it's enough to get my rails done. But then I realized I needed some gold because I needed some powered rails, so back I go to the mines. I had remembered there were a few areas of exposed gold that I didn't get, including on the stairway down. And I knew I had passed up on some in my glitched out ancient city down here from last episode. Those who didn't see it, I've got an ancient city here with essentially no shriekers. So it's just a nice, peaceful ancient city. You gotta watch out for mobs from the side, but they don't spawn in the middle of the city, which is real cool. And I dug up the gold there, and it was right on top of some diamonds, so that was a nice little bonus. So I'm working towards having enough to get my diamond set of armor made, which will be nice to have, and I'll always take a skeleton head when you can find it. They're pretty rare since I've never messed with trident or anything to use the charged creepers for heads, so I'll take a head when I can find it. And I found a few more diamonds, so picking away here. And then I was lighting up the area a little bit, and I found this shrieker here, which I knew there was a couple, but they seemed to be very far and few between. And I got rid of this guy here, and I was really thinking I did a lot to make the area safer, and I'll do that whenever I find them. But I was going to keep exploring, then I saw this other one right here. Set it off. I don't want to mess with setting a shrieker off of the... Ooh, and I forgot the Enderman almost got me there. But I don't want to set a shrieker off for the third time, so I'm not going to do any more exploring down there and get out of there for now. But I was 1 diamond short of having enough for diamond armor, so I did this whole line here, went quite the long ways, didn't find a single diamond. And then I was digging around just the entrance to my mine here, and I found 1 single diamond in the wall. Not a vein, not even 2 together, just a single diamond. So in one way I feel lucky, but it's also annoying that it's not veins. But we did end up with just enough to get my diamond set of armor made here. And definitely got me feeling a lot better. Quite the upgrade. Now I got to work towards getting them enchanted, and I would usually jump right to the enchanting table, but I'm going to try to work with villagers this time. I will use the enchanting table eventually, but we're going to try to do villagers first. So go ahead and get my rails made that I've worked so hard for. Then I just got going on a little rail system here so that I can travel out to the village that I found in episode 1 and just bring them on over and send them up the hill. Turn this into a little villager trading hall for the time being. If not this episode, we'll have them out of here pretty soon and into their own little buildings. But yeah, had to take a nice little journey all the way over to the village. It's a good little boat ride. Now this is a slow little boat ride. I wish they made this go just a little bit faster, or I wish you could use leads on villagers, or that they would follow you if you had carrots or something like that. They got to make it a little easier to bring a villager to follow you around, I think. Maybe there's ways I don't realize that they've upgraded, but we're just going the old-fashioned way for now. Made our way back, and now we just got to try to not hit him when we clear the boat and push him into the cart here and send him to his new home for the time being. Make sure it goes up. I didn't even test the cart, but yeah, plenty of power. Got him in there, and now we repeat the process. And I didn't realize that the sun was going down, and I probably shouldn't have gone into the village at nighttime or just about nighttime because I don't want to kill these villagers off. But I think I lucked out pretty good, so chop the wheat down, put boat on top, and it'll bring the villager out right to the boat and take him for a little ride. Now we've got Grandma and Grandpa. These will be the starts of all the villagers from here on out in our little city here. Went ahead and just planted some carrots in here for now, temporarily, since this is just where I'm keeping them safe, and put a few beds down. So now, once they have enough carrots, which I went and farmed my own and gave them what I had left over, they should keep breeding as long as there's beds there. And more on that later. And yeah, the few carrots I gave them seemed to be enough. I thought they were going to need more than that. And got our first little baby here. So, happy to have that process started, but I want to do my favorite thing to do, which is build. We're going to build a building for the farmers here, and I want to have a little bit of just kind of a farm stand hanging off the front, so I just pushed it back a block or two to give myself a little bit of space when the time comes, and made it match on the other side. And then I just got building here, and I'm just going to let you enjoy the process for a second. And I was liking the start we got going here. Kind of chunky in places, which I adjust a little later, but definitely working for the face of the building. But I went to sleep, got back up and got back to work, working on the farm stand here. And then I forget what I was coming in here to get organized for, but I had an unpleasant surprise. That could have been the end of the series right there. But although I survived, glad I had my diamond armor. We lost Grandma and Grandpa. I was super sad. And I was wondering where they came from, and then I realized that I didn't put torches up here when I put the floor in, and that's the only place he could have came from. So lesson learned there. I will be doing that as I put the floors in from here on out. So I had to do the whole villager process again, which was really annoying. And it was actually a setback in more ways than one here, because I brought him back, and luckily the baby had grown up, so I did have my 2 villagers, but I had used all my carrots to get those other ones going, so these villagers are starting completely fresh, so I have to get them enough carrots to be wanting to breed again. So definitely set back my villager process a little bit. But I just got back to work, filling in the buildings on the sides and the other side. Definitely noticing just going up in scale a little bit really has me going through the resources at a very fast rate. I feel like I've chopped quite a few spruce trees, and I've gotten so much deep slate, and I'm surprised I've gone through the vast majority of it. But I am realizing how much easier doing roofs like this is, and less resource intensive. And I think it looks all right. I got a good little start here, and we'll get going on this other building in just a second, but I figured I better spend a little time just doing some chores and odd jobs. You can't be building all the time. And I wanted to work towards just making it a little easier on myself when these villagers are ready to start getting transported around. So I got taking away my little cart system from back here and transferring it to the front so that I'd be able to send them to the correct buildings eventually. But I will reiterate just how annoying it is having those first couple die, because it really slowed the process on getting them breeding there. Also another mistake that I will let you know about in a second. But yeah, I also once again was really low on iron, so I actually took a trip up to the mountains here hoping to find some exposed iron, and ended up in a nice snowstorm here, which I always like the snow in Minecraft, and I haven't built in a snow biome in a while, so I might need to do that here soon. But I did find a few caves up here, which had a decent amount of exposed iron, even if I was having to kill a few mobs here and there to make it happen. But at this point with my armor, I'm feeling a little more comfortable doing things like that. We ended up with 39 iron, which I figured would get me through the episode here. Then I wanted to get a fence around my little crop field here, so I needed to clear a few trees out of the way, which that worked out because I do need a bunch of spruce wood. I'm going through that really fast. I just laid the fence around, making sure that villagers can't get out and zombies can't get in, so eventually I'll be able to release the villagers in here. And I'll come back and make it look a lot prettier. Obviously, I'm going a little different than I do in my Let's Play world. Like I said earlier, I'm not focusing so much on the details early on, but I'm thinking next episode will be a detail-heavy episode. And then I got hydrating the crop fields up here. I missed the clip of me putting all the water in, but you can see I've got it all laid out, but I needed to get rid of all the podzol to actually be able to plant it here in a second. But I did spend this night lighting up the area again. As I've been building, I've been covering up some of my lighting, and I realized that a lot of the lighting I put down in episode 1 I had taken away, so I wasn't very safe. And I needed to get the roofs lit up. That's always real important. So, but yeah, I got the podzol taken out and replaced with dirt, and got it all tilled up, so I've got a decent little crop field up here at this point. Then I put in a few pens for some animals. I think my last series it took 64 days and 57 this time, so I did a little better to actually get going on some animals. There was a wannabe sheep right there. But yeah, I don't know why I'm procrastinating so much on my animals. I'm just not using them, especially since I'm not working on cows, focusing on the enchanting table early like usual, since I'm going to be trying to work with villagers. Speaking of cows, I had to go all over the place to find them. The sheep and the one chicken came easy, but finding these cows was tough, so I was exploring just along the shorelines here, and I ended up checking out this cave over here. I've been wanting to come over and check this out, and this is pretty cool. It goes back here quite a ways. I really don't see myself doing anything with it, but it is a cool cave, and I know I've had lots of people asking for the seed, which I'll put on the screen right now. I was gonna hold off for a little while just because I really don't want anyone telling me where anything is, so please don't do that, but I didn't want to hold it from you because I do agree it's a very cool seed, so hope you enjoy, and I'd love to see what anybody does with it. And yeah, well, I'm ready to get back into building here. Get a good night's rest and get going on what's going to be the building for our armors and toolsmiths and weaponsmith. I think I'm going to have them all in this one little building, at least for starts. Yeah, I wanted to make it a little bit of a wider building, so I extended it just a little bit, and we'll be making an adjustment here, pretty big adjustment in a second, but yeah, same old process as the other buildings. I'm trying to have them all go together nicely, but as you can see, changing up the color palettes and materials for all of them, but kind of building in a similar style. I do change the roof on this one, which actually ends up looking really cool, but we'll get there in a second. And I also really like how the granite ended up looking on this one here. I think it just looks really good. This is actually one of my favorite color palettes, is granite colors and cobblestone variants and spruce. I think they just go really good together. And the adjustment I was talking about was I ended up punching out this little room here that is exposed to the street, and that's where the armors and toolsmiths are actually going to be working, and where the forge is going to be and all that good stuff, which I'm not going to go into this episode. Like I said, I think next episode I'm just going to kind of have a detail heavy episode, but I really like the idea here, and I just kept at work putting the building together. I really like some of the roundedness we're getting in a lot of the windows in these buildings here. I think it just looks really good. And when I pop down here, I actually kind of liked the flat roof up there. I thought it just stood out as something kind of different, so I ended up just taking that and running with it. Used some stairs just to add a little bit of interesting shape here, and I think it actually ends up working out really good, giving it a little bit of a castle feel, which I think is appropriate for being a blacksmith area. I really like how it came out here. And I'm just really liking how well the ideas coming to fruition here of Main Street. Just imagine getting some buildings added as you go down. Feels like a can't miss base. But I spent a little time just tidying things up a little bit, filling in some of the uneven ground. I am just using cobblestone, figuring that it will eventually be replaced when I really want to end up making things looking good, but it's a good base stone just to get something down, and something that has slabs so I can use less resources. And I ended up working on the road. I didn't finish the sidewalk last time I was working, and lighten things up, and then I decided I wanted to just extend the boardwalk here. I don't know if I'm going to keep this. I might end up putting a building here. I don't know quite how I'm going to work this little end over here this time, but I figured for now just get a nice little border on with a fence, and it will look a lot better for now, and I probably will end up just keeping it this way, but it won't be too tough to replace later if I want to do something different. Then I spent a good amount of time just putting some texture on the road here. Give you an idea of how slow this process really is. And I did this whole little section of road here. Just the deep slate and the deep slate bricks, but just having the two different variants ends up really making a big difference when you compare it to the completely deep slate road. So yeah, we're not going to have time for this episode. I got set back with my villagers. I'm trying to have each episode be between 30-35 days, so we're going to have to attack the villagers here next episode. And the reason for that is because they weren't breeding this whole time because I didn't have beds down. So that's kind of frustrating, actually. The creeper blew up a couple, and I ended up taking one with me, and I just wasn't thinking of the fact that I was wanting the villagers to breed up, so... Yeah, just a couple more details down here, putting in a couple street lamps with some little hanging baskets hanging off, and I think that actually ended up looking really cool. And then, as always, just getting some greenery around. Always a nice finishing touch. And I want to have a few little kind of garden areas off to the sides wherever I can make it work. Now, I don't know if this will be permanent, depending on what kind of building I put here next, but I just think getting a little bit of decoration down here. And yeah, I'm super happy with these two buildings here. I really like the two different roof types, and I'm just real excited for this whole area down here. This is probably the best I've ever done at creating that city vibe. I've set out to do it a few times before, and I've done some cool things, but I really think this Main Street idea and just having the buildings so tight-knit and close together is really making the difference. And the going up in scale a little bit really makes a huge difference compared to what I've done before. So I'm just really looking forward to this area expanding. Now, like I said, next episode, I plan on just doing some details. Like, we didn't get any of this done, or we don't have any of our interiors done, and they're definitely set up to be some cool projects. So I don't know how far I'll get, but I think next episode I'm not going to build any new builds. I'm just going to work on the builds I've got so far, as well as get these villagers organized and start trading with them a little bit. My goal is to, by episode 100, at least have some emeralds built up and be able to trade for some good iron tool or diamond tools. Sorry, can't talk. Diamond tools and armor and all that good stuff. But we're back here in my hardcore world, and this has to be the best first 70 days I have ever played in Minecraft, building-wise at least. We are behind in a few areas, but I'm really happy with where we're at in our building here. And today I'm going to bring this area to life a little bit. I'm not going into today with plans of doing a bunch of building, but we'll see what we have time for in the end. My main objective is to get these villagers some more comfortable places to live and places to work, and just bring what we have to life a little bit. And then we'll see what we have time for in the end. But yeah, I'm actually going to start by doing something I probably should have just done in the end of the last episode when I was just adding a few details. I just thought of a few more after I came back. One being some garbage cans, just because I'm trying to break up this street a little bit. You don't want it all just completely empty. I'm trying to find ways to break that up. Then I also ended up putting some overhangs on the roofs here, and I haven't mentioned that Leavenworth, Washington is a big inspiration behind this whole area here, and I looked at a photo of that and realized the overhanging roofs were a big part. And I usually do overhanging roofs. I end up going a little extra with this just to really bring it out, and it definitely makes a difference down here. I think it's a pretty big difference, actually, for such a small detail. It really just makes things not such a straight line, and I think it just looks really good. So I'm really liking the general shape and exterior of the buildings here, but I need to just clean things up a little bit. So starting by replacing some of the temporary cobblestone I had with some tough bricks just to look a little more established. And I am going to try to pick out a couple areas just to have some greenery and some trees just to keep it a little livelier down here. And then I spent some time getting rid of some of these torches. I'm not a fan of torch spam, so putting down some jack-o'-lanterns, which I will disguise here eventually. I don't end up doing it right now, but I will disguise it and it will look better. And I'm using torches on the side still just because I don't have enough iron to make a bunch of lanterns. But yeah, then I started the project of kind of creating a border around my area just so that keep the mobs out and let the villagers run around in there. I ended up having to chop a few trees just because I was running low on spruce, especially since I ended up extending the boardwalk here quite a bit. Again, this boardwalk is something that could end up getting just built over with buildings eventually, but for now it works well to contain the area. So I did need to light that up as I went, make sure I'm not forgetting anything so I don't have any dark spots. And I also lit up around the perimeter quite a bit just to give myself a little wiggle room, not have the mobs at our fence all the time. And I think this is looking really cool. Definitely looks a lot better without the random torches all over the place. But I also needed to just fill a few holes and make sure there weren't any places where the villagers could escape. And it ended up being a little project here, making sure they can't get under the houses and all that. And as we build, we'll make this all look better. But for now, we've got our village pretty well set up. I could let the villagers loose if I wanted at this point. And I'm going to be wanting to work with them a bunch, so I end up farming my fields here because I need to start building up my crops. But I will say right now that I'm not doing very good at keeping up on my farming and dealing with my animals as well. These are all the cows I have on day 73. And all the sheep, so I need to start doing better than that. But spoiler alert, I don't, at least for this episode. And when nighttime came around, I got up on the roof just to make sure I didn't have any dark spots standing out to me, and I was inspired to just do a little more lighting around the perimeter, and so I did a nice dangerous run through the woods. And we've got things pretty well lit up around here. It's going to be nice to be able to start enjoying the night times again a little bit. I really like nighttime in Minecraft, but I'm going to sleep through this one just until I'm absolutely sure. And I'm wanting to get working with villagers, but I need a few things, mainly being iron. So I'm really hoping to find stony peaks, just because that's the best way to find iron. So start going on some adventures out in some directions I hadn't traveled yet. I did find a little flower forest while I was out here, a real small one. This one didn't even have any tulips. I did find a few tulips that end up not being showed, but so I get well stocked up on my flowers on this trip actually. And I saw a village in the distance, so I had to check that out. A little bit of food, and I did get some beetroot, which I hadn't had yet, so that's nice to have in my arsenal. But pretty empty houses, except the blacksmith had a decent chest here. This would have been a nice find in the early game. And go to sleep just to stay safe on my travels. And looking out this direction, I just didn't see anything that was calling my name, and I didn't want to get too far from the base, so I started kind of making my roundabout way back and didn't find anything too interesting, but I stopped at home and dropped off the flowers, so that made that trip worthwhile a little bit. Good example of how handy the bundles can be. But I didn't find any iron, so I set back out in the northwest direction, which I hadn't traveled too much, and was just hoping I'd find some stony peaks, which I had higher hopes for this area since it was at least had some mountains nearby, but once again, not great luck. Pretty cool area here, though. Sleep the night away just to stay safe again, and we had this little mountain here, and I was really hoping I'd see some stony peaks or something in the distance, but not much to be found. And while I was up here, I thought I'd just dig into the mountain a little bit since I am nice and high, and you're supposed to find more iron and coal, which I did find a couple veins, so that was pretty lucky, but I didn't want to spend too much time doing that. I'm already wasting more time on these trips than I really wanted to as I'm approaching 100 days. There's a lot I want to get done. And I did end up finding a dark oak forest while I was out here and chopped a few trees while I was at it, so that's a pretty nice find. Got some birch while I was at it out here since I am going to be wanting some of that for building. Made sure I got some saplings. And after a long few days, like I said, not how I wanted to be spending my time, I decided I was going to give up on the Stony Peak search at this point. It wasn't a complete waste of time though. Got new wood type and some flowers and just know my area a little bit better. I'll be honest, the surrounding area isn't as impressive as my general building area, so that's one thing about this world so far. But I did remember that when I was making my branch mine down here at level 0, I had opened up into this big cave that I didn't want to explore at the time because it was early game, but I figure I got diamond armor now. If not now, then when? So I thought I'd come down here and light the area up a bit, and of course had to kill quite a few mobs along the way. A lot of times I was just letting them chase me, and they would end up killing each other off for the most part, which was actually kind of nice. And it's kind of fun, and fun way to just light up an area. Slowly but surely gaining some levels as well by getting some of these mobs here. And then when I was looking around, I realized that I had found an iron vein. And that's really lucky considering what my whole mission has been today. But before I got mining it, I wanted to really make sure I was safe and wasn't going to have any creepers sneaking up from behind me or anything. So definitely made a good project out of getting this cave lit up, and it ends up being a pretty cool cave. But yeah, end up doing some serious iron mining. This is my most productive iron mining trip of the series so far. I do feel like it's a small little vein. It kind of seemed to run out on me here, but I'm sure there's more to be found somewhere if I really come down and explore. Getting some redstone while I'm at it, along the lines of upping my levels, which I haven't been working towards as far as leather and sugarcane at this point, but I'll get started on that here in a little bit at least. But yeah, got a good amount of iron cooking here, and should be enough to at least get me through the episode at this point. But I was ready to get working towards releasing these villagers here, and I just want to have at least a good start on their places of work and places to sleep. So I got going on that, starting with what's going to be the place for our farmers here with their little farm stand out front. And just try to do some little things to make the building represent what it's there for. As well as just some simple interiors. Definitely not going too far with the interiors today, but just getting a little started. And I did want to change how this stand looked. I didn't like the wool all being one flat level up top, so I wanted to just adjust it a little bit, give it a little more shape, and glad I did. I like having that wool pop out the back. And then I had some skeleton horses spawn here, which I think this is only the third time I've ever seen these guys. I had to run away there for whatever reason. I couldn't open the door. So it could have been worse, but I started luring them over here one at a time just because I'd like to save these horses. No luck with that guy, unfortunately, but I did end up getting all other three, and I think this is only the second time I've ever had skeleton horses. Unfortunately, they're all super slow, so they're not very practical, but you gotta save them when you can find something so rare, so at least we have them here. We might find something to do with them at some point. But that was a nice little sidetrack there, and I just got back to work on my farmer area. And I let a few loose. Like I said, I don't want to release them all right away, just in case a disaster happens of some kind, but let a couple out and just kept on decorating. Once again, I didn't go too crazy, but just having a little something done really does make a huge difference rather than just having an empty room here. And yeah, I think it's looking like a little farm stand and it's working out. And so on to our blacksmith area. Gotta have a little forge here. Just kind of getting the general plan of where things are going to be, and it's nice getting the chimney in. But yeah, I'm trying to see how much I can squeeze in these 100 days, so we're not going too far with the details. I'll come back and make this forge look better, for example, and all that. But definitely got it looking like an armorer's place here, so that's working out. And I did some work on the back sides of the buildings here as well. They weren't done, so that's nice to finally have done so that it'll look better when I'm farming my crops or approaching from this side here. I think it looks good. And then I got going on the interior a little bit, and as you've seen, I just like to get a kind of a simple little work area set up with the crafting table and a furnace and a few chests always, and then just sometimes a couple things of comfort and get some paintings up, and we get things looking pretty good in the end here. And then I got going on my stonemason area over here, just putting out some stone types on the outside to kind of display for the workers here. And when I was going on the interior and I put these beds down here, I just didn't like the vibe. I didn't feel like this would be a place where they would live. It just didn't make sense as much as it does with like a farm stand. So that kind of prompted me to get transforming the bottom floor of what was going to just be my base of operations, and I'm actually going to kind of turn it into a little apartment building for some more villagers and just have some comfortable places for them to sleep and stay, and that way I won't have to be combining their little workshops. I would be putting them upstairs of their workshops, but they don't like to pathfind to their beds when I do that, so we're going to do something different with the upstairs eventually. That'll either be storages or maybe build some auto farms in places eventually. But yeah, I think we got this looking cool here. We'll have a little kitchen here and a little hallway with some bedrooms and places for the villagers to stay. So I just got going on the interior here, trying to make it look a little better. The biggest project of them all was getting my storage organized, and I thought it'd be cool to hide it under the staircase here. And yeah, I think I spent almost a whole day just organizing my chests and getting things in the right spots. But it always feels good to get done. It's kind of a turning point of my worlds, I would say. And yeah, after a few finishing touches here, I'm really liking what I transformed this little bottom floor into. Nice place for me to work out of still, so I don't need to go upstairs every time I want to come and organize myself. And got my own little kitchen here. And it'll get a round 2 of details when I get more wool and can do some carpets and all that, which I could do right now. I'm just being kind of lazy. But it'll end up looking better in the end. Now I got space to work on the interior in here, so I end up doing some final details here. Giving them a little crafting bench, displaying some of their cuts of stone here, as well as filling in the wall. That I don't want to be using the wall from the building next door, so I was wondering what didn't feel right about this room, and that was definitely it. Ends up looking a lot better here. And even though a stonemason shop probably wouldn't have a big giant painting, I think it just adds so much to the vibe. And yeah, I got some displays up there and looking like a stonemason shop from the outside. I'm feeling pretty good about it. Just representing what they do, and I'm really liking our area here. And stonemasons have actually become probably my favorite villager early on to trade with, just because now you can find these large deposits of clay, and it's just easy to get a whole bunch of it, and 10 clay for an emerald. I think that's tough to beat. Farmers, of course, as well, but you have to get them to level 2 to trade them pumpkins, which is the best part about them. So yeah, got a bunch of clay and came and started trading with my masons here a little bit. Get started on my emeralds. I was hoping to be a little further along with villager trading and stuff at this point, and again, I've said it earlier in the episode, I've really not been doing good on my farming and all of that. I do come over here and start chopping some pumpkins, but I didn't want to farm the fields because things weren't fully grown yet, and I did make the mistake of letting the villagers run around here, so they've been probably farming a little bit. But yeah, so I went and grabbed the little bits of crops that I had and got trading with my farmers, but most of them were beetroot trades, which I didn't have much of. 26 potatoes for an emerald isn't the best trade, but I took it anyway for whatever reason, and I was going to see if I could just swap the trades for this guy, but he took another job immediately, so that didn't work very well. I'm going to need to get a few more villagers running around here. But that did get me quite a few levels, and I'm at level 33, and I'm really regretting how bad I've done on my cow farming at this point. As well as sugarcane farming, meaning that I haven't done any. So I end up making a little sugarcane area here just so I can get it growing, because yeah, I guess I thought I was going to just be further along with the villagers. I was hoping to not do much enchanting, really, but it's a lot more work than I really thought, so I'm going to want to get some leather and some sugarcane, mainly so I can get fortune, so that when I farm these fields, I get a lot more crops, for one thing, as well as iron and diamonds and all that good stuff. But I am going to be trying to do most of my enchanting and all that just through villager trading. And I was hoping to be a lot further along with that at this point, and I should probably just really grind these last 10 days, really working these villagers and getting them to a better point, but the way I play Minecraft, I couldn't help myself but just challenging myself to see if I can get another couple builds in these last 10 days. I thought that would be a more fun way to spend the episode. But I'm building as fast as I'm gathering resources, as I tend to do, so I did need to gather some resources before that, and I wanted to build with some dark oak now that I have it, as well as we had this huge birch forest out here, which I'm going to need a bunch of birch. So while I was here, I chopped a big clearing. As you can see, I do like to get away from like a waterway. I don't want to ruin any views. I like to get in the middle of a big forest when I'm doing some tree chopping. And I spent pretty much the whole day, and I let it get too dark, which I was aware of when that happened. And I was killing off some mobs here. And got a little too comfortable, and bang. That could have been bad, but then bang! How I survived that, I don't know. Especially only 4 hearts. I don't know how that didn't bring me down to half a heart, for that matter. That creeper was right in my face. So, closest call, I would say, of the season so far. And it really does make your heart drop. I will say that. Hardcore is a different story. And I've been pretty lucky so far to not have any real close calls. I did have a fall that I didn't catch on video that dropped me down to a few hearts, but the creeper there was scarier. And of course, being the intelligent guy that I am, I decided to run all the way home through the dark. Not a very good example of learning a lesson there, but trying to make the most out of these last few days. So I figured I'd spend this nighttime down in the mines getting some deep slate and some tuff, and I got some cobble as well while I was down here. And I did underestimate how much I really needed here, because I wasn't thinking about the roofs, which I was going to need deep slate for. So I did end up making another trip, or even 2 down there. But I'm going to go ahead and just cut those out and get organized here and just have a nice little building montage for these last few days here. Let's see what kind of progress we can make until day 100. So I want to start with just getting the faces of the buildings up here, just to give an idea of what I'm thinking of. And I'm going to do a building here for my animals, so it's going to kind of be a barn style. And I actually end up messing up when I put it up here, so you can see it's kind of wonky, and I went a little taller than I wanted. So after a little bit of surgery here, we end up having a shape I like. And it seems pretty big, but once you come back here and look down the street, man, I'm just really enjoying this building and this scale. It's definitely really added to my arsenal here. So I also wanted to try to get a building over at this end, kind of as the corner building, and I want a nice tall building here. So I end up going with some diorite here, which is kind of a weird choice, but I wanted this building to contrast a little bit rather than being wood like all the other buildings. And yeah, got it built up pretty tall here and stepped down, and I like the block types. I like the diorite up there, but I did wish it was a little bit taller. I just don't want all these buildings to be the same height. And I actually kind of like the tree there. It'll be cooler when it's a custom tree, but I was thinking of taking it down, but I'm actually gonna keep it. So yeah, I'll just let you enjoy while we build this out here for a second. Added the little oak section at the top to add some height, and it just brings things together. I think it actually looks really good, and the roof blends it with the rest of the area here. So we'll be back to do some details there. Now I need to put some work into the barn building here, but I needed to do some prep to make that happen, because right behind it is where I have all my animals. So it ended up being quite a little project of just getting this area cleared out and pushing the animals back a little bit. Replacing the podzol with grass so that the sheep can eat, and yeah, just pushing the border back quite a ways and moving the animals back. I did end up losing one of the main clips of the recording here, so lost a little of the continuity, but we ended up filling the area with some dirt, just give me some nice level ground to work on, and yeah, I got my cows moved back as well, and we're ready to jump in and get this building going. And you can see how I'm really going through the resources here, but I think this building's going to end up being really cool. I went fairly big with it. I do plan on putting an automatic sheep farm upstairs eventually, but that'll be in the future. Hopefully we even get to that point. For now, I'm just trying to make things look a little better and just kind of go with the similar style as I always do. I did kind of go big with the door frame on this guy just to be a little different. Yeah, just kept plugging away. I'll just let it play out for a second. I think it's looking pretty cool here. Definitely, you think barn when you look at it, I would say, compared to the other buildings, and especially when we get some decorations out front and all that, and really bring it to life. But I'd say for stage one, I'm really liking how this building's coming out here. So I'm running out of time, so this building probably won't get all the love it deserves. I end up putting this trim in, which I do end up swapping out later, just because at this point I was out of dark oak wood, and I didn't have time to go get more dark oak, so I end up using spruce for a lot of the trim and replacing a good amount of the dark oak. Just get some windows in with some simple little frames, not going with the plants like I usually do. I can always come back later and do that, but I think this is actually coming out really cool. And like I said, replacing some of this dark oak with spruce, which I actually think probably does look better. I just didn't want to have so much spruce down here, and I left the dark oak up top. I think it ends up being a cool little building here, and it'll get a lot more love, but I'm going to stop for now since I'm just about at day 100 and we've got phantoms out, so I'm going to go ahead and sleep them away. But I'm feeling really good about where we're at. I think we've made a whole bunch of progress. I'm a builder, so obviously building's kind of what I set out to do, and I'm really happy with where we're at as far as that goes. I am behind in other areas, but that just makes it more fun to have things to do. I did want to get a little bit of an overhang with the barn building here just to make it blend in a little better, and definitely glad I did that. But yeah, we've made it. Day 100 in my first real hardcore world ever. I lost my other world, but not because of dying. But this is my first time ever making it to day 100 in hardcore Minecraft, and I think we've got an awesome area going down here. On track to be my favorite area I've ever built, actually. Obviously, these newer buildings are nowhere near done. Don't have any of the interior or the backsides or anything like that. Lots of work to be done, but I was racing against the clock, and I'm actually pretty happy with it. We got these 2 new buildings added in just the last, I think it was 8 days. And I'd say a pretty successful episode here, getting the simple interiors going and just mainly getting the villagers running around nice and free, getting those borders all set up. That's a big thing. Having free roaming villagers, I think, is always one of my favorite parts to get to in a world. So we got them all some comfortable places to live here, and especially the apartment building down here. Got myself some new roommates, and I really like my working area here, getting all organized in my chests, and I'm looking forward to coming up here and just using this blank slate. I'm thinking I might just build a giant bedroom for myself. Might as well. I got plenty of space to build around here. Yeah, overall, I'm just really liking this area. Upping the scale from what I usually build is just really noticeable to me. It's not a huge scale, but definitely bigger than I usually build, and I'm really enjoying it. So I really enjoy these 100 days. I'm looking forward to continuing it. It's going to be a little while. I got to jump back on my Let's Play world. It's been too long since I've been there, but I will be back for a fresh 100 days here, and we'll see what my goals are for those 100 days, whether I live dangerously or whether I just try to live as long as I possibly can. We're going to have to decide on that. But yeah, as always, thank you all for coming and have a good day.